in the world.
What's up, friends? My name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. You can call me Captain Donkey. What's up? Welcome to, what's today? Sunday? Sunday Q&A. We're going to be taking a look at the AOS 3.5. I'm going to tell you what I like, what I don't like, and what the plan is for it. The plan for it does include floppy 3-inch propellers. In the name of safety. Welcome, chat. I just walked in the door. Let me switch from top chat to live chat. Gil FPV subscribed. Welcome to Madness, Gil. Glad to have you, my man. In the chat, Apache Smokewood and Sniper was first. Mr. Huggy was next. Chopper FPV. Paul McDonald, Spander. Bob Noxious. Tweet FPV is in the house. What's up, Dan? Brandon Woodford. Richard. Dan636. Colby Callister. Gamma Gonad. Terminal Insanity. Flush FPV. Ring Zero. Richard Vaughn. Tiago Ramos. What's up, Tiago? How you been, dude? I haven't seen you in a hot minute. Grievo. T-Bird. Bulldog. Frank Nicholas. Ring Zero. Rick Kennedy. Danzel the Terrible, and Nimbus Blade. If you want the gangly man to read your name, you got to get into the chat early. You got to say hello. If you want to talk directly to me in the chat, all you got to do is type CiottiFPV. If you type Ciotti, if you type CiottiFPV, it'll light up in orange just like this, and I'll know that you're talking to me. If you don't do that, I'll assume that you guys are talking amongst yourself. The folks that hang out in the chat are amazing, super intelligent, super talented, great pilots, great builders, great troubleshooters. So make yourselves at home. Hang out with the other folks in chat. If you have something that would be a good discussion for everybody, make sure that you tag me. OG folks, if you see a really good question that doesn't have me tagged in it, do me a favor, copy it, paste it, give the poster some love, and yeah, let's talk about it. I stole that from Mighty Car Mods. They're the greatest off-roading, non-piston-based car channel on YouTube. Go check them out. Weirdo with a skateboard sent a Mobula 6. Thank you very much, Weirdo. It's on Happy Model 0802 25,000s. I don't think this is the EL. This is not the ELRS. This is the standard one. Very cool. Thank you very much, Weirdo. He was like, I'm not doing anything with this. I'm just gonna send it to you. That's awesome. I don't know if I'll keep it to get. Well, if I keep it. Ooh, wait. No. I was just thinking maybe I'll do red pine on it, but I don't have any transmitters that'll work with red pine, so I'm probably not gonna do red pine on it. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. Maybe I'll pull the. Maybe I'll pull the motors and snag. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. We'll figure it out though. Thank you very much, Weirdo. Very, very cool of you to send this over. It was as you can probably guess, if you're an OG person here and you've been and you've had your Weirdo with a skateboard experience, it was duct taped. There was duct tape all over it. Weirdo with a skateboard always recommends fixing things with duct tape if you're new around these parts. Apache Smoke Wounded Sniper tagged me and said, good evening, just home from flying and crashing, now fixing to watching the best live stream
in the world.
What's up, everyone? Mr. Huggy says, trying out the AOS 3.5. I did have one, but I found it too tight to fit in with the standoff. Still keep thinking about making one. Interesting. I haven't started placing things in there yet to see what's going on. I just had a chance last night on the couch with Maggie and the kiddos to kind of piece it together. So I do have some initial thoughts that might not be popular thoughts, but they are thoughts. So yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit here. Brandon Woodford says, what's up? Bob Noxious says, what's up, Collective and the Gangly Man? T-Bird says, hey, beautiful, aka TweetFPV, you too, CiottiFPV. Rick says, hello, Collective. Hey, CiottiFPV. Danzilla the Turtle says, what's up, all you handsome bastards? CiottiFPV 2, I guess. What else is going? Oh, YouTube just did the thing, getting things started. There we go. Envy of the Bird says, hello, dude. Reading the Wind says, what's up, what's up? Kevin Nebus tagged me with a little wavy guy. Envy of the Bird says, have you ever used these Foxier Nano VTXs? Just had 2 DOA and the second one took out the 5-volt on my effing flight controller. When those came out, I heard a bunch of people having issues and I never got them. And I never stopped hearing problems with them. So yeah, unfortunately you're not alone, but yeah. Sucks, dude. That sucks. But yeah, you're not alone. If that makes you feel any better. Probably doesn't. Bulldog FPV says, thoughts on best Whoop VTX antenna for indoor racing. The TrueRC Singularity. I don't have one. I had one sitting right there, but I don't anymore. Yeah, TrueRC Singularity. You can get it in ultra short. You can get it in regular short. Just go to Google, type in TrueRC. You'll find them. And then if there's a specific length that you want, you can just put it in your order notes. For example, I ordered a whole bunch of those Singularities for a couple of Tiny Whoop builds that I had, and I left in the notes to Hugo. Hugo is the name of the guy that runs TrueRC. I said in the notes, I was like, hey, Hugo, I'm ordering an ultra short and a short. Can you make the ultra short a little bit longer to fit under the canopy, under the Modulus 6 canopy? I know it's hard to see, but it's in there. There you can see it a little bit better. See that? So Hugo made me a custom length that I was able to fit under the canopy, which is just awesome. And then he also made me a custom length on the short antenna, so that it would perfectly fit these tiny lifter builds here. And see how close it is to the ass end of the canopy here? That's not a normal length. Usually the ultra short would be too short to get outside of the canopy, and then the regular short is a little bit longer, which is not the end of the world, but I didn't want that extra length. I was worried about that extra length creating like vibrating out and making a sub 100 hertz resonant frequency. So yeah, TrueRC, and I mean TrueRC antennas in my experience have been the best. I've tried pretty much all the antennas, and the TrueRCs have risen to the top. You know, they're not the fanciest. They don't have like they don't sponsor pro pilots, so they don't. The TrueRC antennas don't really have like a lot of hype train behind them. Hugo just spends his time making his antennas really good, and you know, that's what I like. I don't really care if, you know, pilot A, B, or C fly a piece of gear. I care about, you know, the quality of the gear and the quality of the human being making it, to be honest with you. So yeah, I really dig TrueRC. GEPRC. So the other thing that speaks to TrueRC quality is the majority of the antennas that are kind of like white labeled are made by TrueRC. The best example of this is GEPRC's Axie line of antennas. Those are all made by TrueRC. Also the Rush Tank Cherry antennas, those are all made by TrueRC. So, you know, it stands to reason that I don't know, draw your own conclusions. But the Axie antennas from GEPRC are known to be incredibly high quality, and that's because they're made by TrueRC. GEPRC doesn't really have any. All they basically say is, here, make the antenna look like this. They don't say like, hey, make the internals different or anything like that. They just say, you know, like on their latest antenna, they just said like, hey, we want the exterior of the antenna to have like little triangles and be like, you know, 20-sided or whatever the hell it is. And that's it. So the quality of the actual antenna itself is all driven by TrueRC and Hugo, basically. So there you go. There's a long answer to a short question, but a good question nonetheless, Bulldog. Scott FPV says, what's up? Been a minute. Gamma Gonad says, I've been absent for a bit, but did you see Tommy's live FPV at the Superdome? I didn't see it live, but I did see Tommy's edit of it. Really, really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. Nimbus Blade, make sure that you type CiottiFPV. Can't just type at Ciotti. But I happen to see it. He says, just curious about a possible motor swap, 1102 10,000 kV 40 millimeter 1636 to 1203 11,500 40 millimeter 1306. Pros, cons. Pros are going to be more stator volume and more power. Cons are going to be more weight. It's good that the KV has increased when going from the 1102 to the 1203. It's hard for me to really dig in without knowing what the quad is, without knowing who your favorite pilots are, without knowing what kind of flying you do. Is there an HD cam? Is there a payload? Blah, 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 blah. Those are all the things that I do in the one-on-one sessions that I book through my Fiverr page, which you can find over on CiottiFPV.com. Thank you for the opportunity, Nimbus Blade, to, what's it called? Turbo shill. But yeah, I mean, that's about it. That going from 1102 to 1203 is going to give you a lot more stator volume, which is going to mean a lot more power, but it's going to be quite a bit heavier. A 1203 is going to be significantly heavier than an 1102. So yeah, there you go. Dan636 says, funny how I'm not timed out today. A stream or two ago, one of the mods accidentally timed Dan636 out. And it's become a running joke. I'm just glad it wasn't me doing it by accident. TweetFPV says, thanks for stopping by the live stream this morning. My pleasure, my man. I'm usually not awake in time for your streams on Sundays, but yeah, this morning, last night I went to sleep really early. I've been at Maggie's since Friday, taking care of Sage, who had some pretty major surgery Friday morning. So yeah, I've been a little bit off the radar, but it's actually really helped me get back on track with like not going to sleep at 5 to 6 a.m., waking up at 1 or 2 p.m. So yeah, that was nice to be able to swing by. Go-Kart Mozart says, what's up? Hey, everybody. Family Guyver says, what's up? CiottiFPV and Collective. Izalku says, why is Radio Master Lumineer Edition is more than $100 compared to regular Radio Master 16X MK2 Max with AG01? Is it the name only? I haven't the foggiest, to be honest. I don't know anything about any of these Radio Master radios. They're not the right shape for my hands. I don't find them to be all that comfortable. And quite honestly, my $100 QX7 from almost 6 years ago does everything that everything that I need a radio to do, which is it gives me a module bay and 2 thumbsticks. So I'm not the guy to ask about transmitters because yeah, I just I don't find it a thing that makes much sense to spend money on. Like there are so many more things in FPV that you can spend your hard-earned money on that will make a much bigger difference in how good you fly, how often you fly, blah 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 blah. So yeah, old ass QX7s for the win, in my opinion, especially if you have big long fingers and or big ass hands. Terminal Insanity knows what's up. He says the guy who runs TrueRC is awesome. Yeah, Hugo's a great guy. Hugo is an awesome guy. If you order directly from TrueRC, do me a favor, throw in your notes. You know, I'm here because CiottiFPV talks about you all the time. Here's a little tip too. On TrueRC's website, they do have a clearance section for like blemished products. I've ordered a bunch of them, and I can't find any blemishes on them. They work beautiful. Hugo tests them to make sure that they perform okay. But then, yeah, maybe the R in TrueRC is upside down. Oh, I can't believe he doesn't just sell them at normal price. But yeah, there's a little tip for you. Mr. Huggy says, I gave my AOS 3.5 to Dan. I much prefer the Ladrone. I didn't realize that. Dan gave it to me, Mr. Huggy. This is your AOS 3.5. Dan sent this to me. That's hysterical. I much prefer the Ladrones Club Mod L and the 3.5 inch normal. I've looked at that Mod L before. It's a cool looking frame. I don't think it will. From what I remember, that is not a frame that will satisfy the one reason that I'm interested in this, which is no props in view of the FPV cam, because this is going to become the workhorse for the American Crit Series live bike racing gigs that. It's looking like I'm going to get at least one more. It's looking like I'm going to get to do at least one more of those gigs this year, which is super awesome. But yeah, that was the main requirement of this frame. And the FPV cam here is way, way, way in front of the front motors. So it's looking like, you know, your field of view is roughly like that, and a 3.5 inch prop is going to swing like that. So yeah, it's looking like there's not going to be any props in view, which is yeah, for what the TV truck is looking for, that's important. So, and then, yeah, put some floppy proppies on it to keep it super safe, and away we shall go. Ring Zero says, I have a question. I fly analog and I'm looking for a second quad. The choice between EMax Babyhawk II or GEPRC Smart 35, or maybe building my own. I need a freestyle quad under 250 grams. Ring Zero, always build your own. You're going to crash it and break it anyway, and you're going to have to pull it apart. If you've built it yourself, you're going to get to pick how you've built it, and that you can basically implement things during the building phase that are going to make it easier to work on, and you're going to be able to make it easier, not easier, but you're going to make it suit your specific needs. This is something that I work with folks on through the Fiverr gig called build planning. For almost 6 years now, I've been combining different flight controllers, ESCs, batteries, frames, motors, propellers. So I have a really good feel for what setup of parts and pieces in a rig is going to make it perform really well for someone who likes the way that LeDrib flies, is going to carry an HD cam that weighs 26 grams, crashes into grass only, never concrete, likes really powerful rigs. I have a whole big list of questions that I ask folks to get myself dialed in on exactly what's going to fly perfectly for them. When you buy a bind and fly, there's none of that. Bind and flies are designed to sell very specifically, right? Like, these companies they need to make money. So when they put together a bind and fly, that's the goal. They're selecting parts and pieces that are going to make them the most money. Sure, they also want it to fly good, but who do they want it to fly good for? Is it you? Is it me? Is it somebody that does long range? Is it somebody that flies bandos? Is it somebody that flies trees? I don't know. So yeah, this is one of the beautiful things about our hobby, is that very, very inexpensively, right? A couple of $100, you can build a completely top to bottom customized rig that suits your specific flight style, likes and dislikes, where you crash, where you fly, all these things. And that's a really big deal, because that will make you a better pilot, right? Like, so I come from motorsports, and in motorsports, we do the same thing, but we do it in a much more expensive, much more pain in the ass kind of way, where we pick the car first, right? We pick the platform that we're going to build on. So in my case, when I got really into autocross track days, the platform was the Miata. Initially, it was the Mustang, and then I got smart and realized it was the Miata. And then once we have the platform, we're kind of stuck with that platform. That's one thing that kind of sucks about motorsport, is because you spend a shitload of money on the car itself, and then you start pouring time and money into it. Well, you can't just like, if you decide a couple of years in that platform is not the right platform for you, it's not a $50 frame swap. It's a $10,000, like, try to part it out or try to sell it as is, and then try to find something else that's not rusty. It's an absolute nightmare. This is one of the beautiful things about FPV, is that for really cheap, and then you can build it here, right? You don't have to build it in the boiling hot or freezing cold garage where you're bashing, where you're punching metal and bleeding all over the place. So yeah, always custom build. Always, 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 in my opinion. The bind and flies are going to be the right combination of props, motors, frame, durability for a couple of people. And maybe, you'll roll the 100-sided die and it'll come up with your exact number, but probably not. Most people, when you buy a bind and fly, it's not dialed in perfectly for you. That's something that, you can do on your side. So stick around. I give lots and lots and lots of feedback. I mean, I would love to work with you one-on-one if you have the budget for it. Typically, if you can come up with the budget to work with me one-on-one, it's typically going to pay for itself, right? Because I'm going to be able to give you all that information up front, whereas if you try to do that yourself, you're bound to buy an ESC that's not the right one, or a set of motors that aren't proper, or a frame that's not right. and then you're going to spend a bunch of time correcting that mistake down the road, and you're probably going to spend $40 to $80 fixing that mistake as well, and that's what you would have paid for me in the first place. So yeah, CiottiFPV.com. There's also a Patreon channel over there. That really helps me out the most to continue to make these live streams where I give tons and tons, as much as I can, free information, 8 to 10 hours a week, every week. And there's a whole bunch of other benefits on the Patreon channel. You get on my Discord, all kinds of fun stuff. Etsy store, buy yourself something cool. Teespring store, buy yourself something soft and cozy. I don't know. I can't believe I just said the word cozy. I've been hanging out with Maggie too much. Not true. I don't hang out with her nearly enough. Bulldog FPV says, thank you, sir. You just made up my mind. Love it. Tiago Ramos says, Foxier antennas aren't also true RC. I don't know, Tiago. I do not know the answer to that. They don't... yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I doubt that they are because of how cheap that they are. The Foxier antennas, you get 2 of them for $20. I don't know how True RC would be able to do that and then Foxier buy it and put their own markup on it. But I could totally be wrong. The Foxier antennas they have been pretty good for me. I've been pretty impressed by the Foxier antennas. They're not as good as the True RCs, but my God, are they cheap. 2 antennas for $20 is a hell of a deal. So, yeah, if anybody in the chat knows for a fact that the Foxier antennas are made by True RC, tag me, because that's interesting. YouTube just did the thing again, scrolling back up. Try to find my place here. Holy hell, I'm really behind already. Espander says, I thought Axie antennas are Lumineer. Lumineer is a brand that GEPRC has created. So Lumineer is basically just GEPRC. Axie is Lumineer's line of antennas that are created by TrueRC. Lumineer doesn't make anything. Lumineer is just a word. It's just a brand. Everything that is Lumineer is manufactured by somebody else, just white labeled by somebody else. So yeah, Lumineer doesn't really make anything, Expander. Envy of the Birds with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, homie. That's super generous. He says, thanks, dude. That makes me feel better to know it's not just me. What's the best nano VTX for a 5-inch racing build then? I found TBS Unify in stock. TBS Unifies I am not a fan of at all. I've had really bad results with those, and pretty much everybody that that I talk to, other than Steel, has also shared in not having a great experience with TBS Unifies. When they're brand new, they seem to be fine, but Patrick, one of the local pilots that I'm super good friends with, he said it best. And one day when he said, like, he feels like every single time he plugs a battery in to one of his rigs with a TBS Unify, it kills, it just dies a little bit. Like, every single time you power up a TBS Unify, it seems to degrade a little bit. And I have not had that experience with Rush VTXs or eSheen VTXs or Immersion RC VTXs. My favorite 5-inch freestyle VTX is the Immersion RC Tramp. I've also had really good luck with all of the Rush antennas. If you're looking for a nano VTX, though, I gotta be honest, I've had the best luck with the eSheen nanos. I've also had really good luck with the Impulse RC Tramp Nano, or Nano Tramp, whatever the hell it's called. And I've also had a good luck with the Rush Nano. But the eSheen Nano VTX is incredibly cheap. They're like $13. You can buy like 2 or 3 of them, and I don't get it, but they've just been bulletproof for me. And I've had really good luck with all of eSheen's video components. Their goggles, their receiver modules, their VTXs. For some strange reason, they've all like punched way above their weight. They're typically like the cheapest you can find, and then they perform just like the more expensive stuff, or in some cases better. Here's an example. I have had either 2 or 3, at least 2, TBS Nano Pro 32s fail. That represents all of them. All of them that I've ever run have failed. I have run 6 Eachine Nanos, and I've not had a single one of them fail, to give you some idea. And the Eachine Nano is less than half as much as the TBS Pro 32 Nano. The TBS Pro 32 Nano is $30, and the Eachine Nanos are like 12 or 13 bucks, depending on where you get them from. So yeah, admittedly that's a small sample size, but I have heard that same story from at least 10 or 15 people. So there you go. Thanks again for the super generous super chat, brother. Very cool of you. Tiago says, I haven't accidentally timed out people in a while. Nimbus Blade says, right on, thanks, still new. Bird is Tiny Go 4K. I plan on fully modding. New all-up weight would be 115 grams. So would the motor swap properly compensate for the weight? I can't answer that, Nimbus Blade. I don't build rigs that are that small and lightweight anymore. I also don't know what a Tiny Go 4K is. But yeah, I mean, that motor swap that you're talking about is going to get you considerably more power, but it is going to be a little bit heavier. So yeah, with it being heavier, you're gonna get more throw and more momentum, but it's also not gonna crash as good. When it crashes, it's gonna have more momentum, more energy, more mass. So there's pros and cons. All the same pros and cons, though, with any of these rigs when you put on a bigger motor, right? More power, slightly less runtime, more weight, but more power is fun. So if you currently feel like you don't have enough power, then I think you're on the right track. Pablo says, hi man, I've got the Babyhawk II HD with lots of Propwash and can't tune it out. Tried moving from 1404 to 1505, but didn't change much. Considering moving to the AOS 3.5. Thoughts, thanks. So the only thing that switching frames is going to do is give you slightly better vibration resistance, which will let you pull the filters down a little bit, and you can maybe gain 1 or 2 milliseconds, and that'll give you an absolutely microscopic amount of benefit in prop wash handling. The bigger benefit will be that will then allow you to kick your D-gain up a little bit, and you'll gain a tiny little bit of a benefit there as well. The problem with that swap, though, is going to be that the Babyhawk II frame is very lightweight, and the AOS 3.5 frame is kind of heavy. So any benefit that you're going to get in that frame swap from it handling vibrations better is probably going to get gobbled up by the fact that the frame is heavier. So yeah, you shouldn't have lots of prop wash. You should be able to tune that out. I know that you said that you can't tune it out, but are you really good at tuning? I have no idea. I don't know who you are. I don't know if you've spent 10 minutes learning how to tune, or 10 hours learning how to tune, or 100 hours learning how to tune. So maybe link up. So in the chat, Brandon's well, he's just called Brandon's Beans now. I call him his old name, Brandon's Baked Beans. Brandon charges $1 a minute to help you tune, and he's brilliant. And I'm willing to bet that he can get that rig as good as it possibly can be. Which 1505? If you moved it to the Toka 1505s, then you're in a good place. If you have it on any other 1505, the motors are probably a part of the problem. You need smooth running motors. Like, you want motors that when you spin them, you need motors that when you spin them by hand, When you spin them by hand, they spin nice and smooth. What you don't want is a motor that when you spin it like this, it goes We call that notchy or coggy. And a notchy coggy motor is going to put a lot of vibrations into the rig, and that's going to cause all kinds of issues. The main one in your case, the main issue in your case that it's going to cause is an inability to crank the PIDs up and to turn the filtering down, basically. So I know I just hit you with a lot, Pablo, but that's a really sort of deep, complex problem. I also, through my Fiverr one-on-one sessions, offer tuning help where I take more of like an education kind of approach. Like, yes, we work together on your rig to get it tuned, but all along the way, I'm explaining to you what the hell I'm changing and why I'm changing it in hopes that you can work with me once and then I can put you on basically like an upgrade path, or like a tuning path, so that if you need to, so that you know what to do in the future. I like to, when it comes to tuning, I love to work with somebody one time and to teach them enough so that they know what to do from that point on. That's my goal. My goal is not to have you come back over and over and over again every single time you change your props or your motors or build a new rig or whatnot. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of different avenues for you to kind of research. Also, maybe try to find, I know there are a couple of EMax Facebook groups. Once you find them, you can post in there your experience, and there's probably somebody else with that exact rig that's been through similar issues, and maybe they can shed some light on what they did to tune theirs. Now that you've changed the motors, I definitely do not suggest you asking anyone for their tune. That's a really good way to cook an ESC or a motor or hurt yourself. And it also is not, it's just not going to work. You can't use somebody else's tune. It just doesn't work like that. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff to get you started. Hopefully that's going to get you pointed in the right direction, Pablo. Really good question. Nimbus Blade says, I don't race or freestyle yet, but plan to and would like to do freestyle after modding the Tiny Go 4K. Okay, sounds good. Awesome. Start smashing it, brother. That's one of my favorite parts of the hobby. Athix says, will we get CiottiFPV Reacts? We will indeed. Thank you for the reminder. I'm going to open up Discord here and go to that text channel. For anybody that doesn't know, CiottiFPV Reacts is a Patreon-only text channel on my Discord page. You can put pictures of your rigs in there, funny memes, questions, kind of whatever you want within reason. And every once in a while, I'll have a little, 20, 30, 40-minute session of CiottiFPV Reacts, and I'll tear apart your rigs and make fun of your face. I'm usually very kind. Keyword usually. Tiago Ramos says, did you see the repeater solution they used in the Red Bull downtown videos? I did indeed, and I was pretty impressed by that. That's a pretty brilliant kind of setup to put a repeater on a Mavic and have it chase the mountain biker downhill. I think that's super rad. Yeah, I have a feeling we might see more of that, because that's really cool. And it's also a great example of analogs still having a place. Like, I'm so fucking tired of, oh, analog's dead, analog's dead, analog's dead. It'll never be dead. It never was dead. Like, just stop. That's just, no. Analog will always have a place. There will always be situations where analog is better, or yeah, whatever. So yeah, stop it, you DJI Master Race bastards. Mr. Huggy says, Dan636, I think CiottiFPV might not like it for the same reasons that I did like it. We will see what he makes of it. Yeah, we're going to dive into that, the AOS 3.5 in a second here. TweetFPV says, gotta get out of here. Have a good live stream. Stay awesome, collective. Thanks for swinging by, Dan. You're probably out of here already, because I'm 20 minutes behind. Look at me go. Nimbus Blade says, I'm currently interested in semi-long range with capabilities for freestyle and speed. Very cool. That'll be fun. Nimbus. I forget what rig you were talking about, but that's a fun way to fly, my man. Scrolling back up because YouTube did the thing again, of course. There it is. Bob Knox just dropping the link to CiottiFPV.com. Thank you, brother. And T-Bird says, I'm building a new setup for Rampage. I remember why I worked with you on my last setup. I wish I'd come back to you for this one. Last setup lasted 2 years and it's still kicking. Love it. Very, very cool. 2 years is although my setups have been probably more than 2 years. Yeah, it's a long time. But when you build a rig right, you don't need to change it for a long time. Bulldog FPV says, for 5-inch rush tank solo, that's the big rush tank. The question that I think that you're referencing, Bulldog, was about a race rig. Race rigs have no need for anything that's that powerful. And with a race rig, you're counting grams. You're trying to save weight everywhere. So yeah, the rush tank solo is sort of the opposite of what you would want for a race rig. The rush tank solo would be what you would want for a long range rig. I assume that's what you're referencing there, Bulldog. I don't have a lot to go on from your comment, but yeah, if that's not what you were talking about, I apologize. Smooth and Groovin says, been missing in action, bro. Had to serve 3 weeks of time in jail, but I'm back and ready to rip. Glad to have you out, Smoothin'. I'm not even going to ask what you did. It doesn't matter. All that matters is you're out and you're back with us, collective maniacs. Bulldog says, I run Eachine on my 2-inch neighborhood basher. Very cool. Yeah, Eachine stuff is... Some of Eachine's stuff is really decent. Shockingly decent, to be honest with you. Pablo DiBiase says, thanks for the insight. I've got Axis Flying 1505s, very smooth, not notchy like the stock EMax 1404. I'll look more into tuning. Stopped after a flyaway. Thanks again. You're certainly welcome. And thank you for mentioning that the Axis Flying 1505s are very smooth. That's pretty cool. It is a struggle to find smooth running motors. The motor manufacturers, do finally seem to be listening to those of us that actually pay attention. So that's really good to hear. I'm actually pulling up a tab right now, looking for those motors. Damn. Looks like the only place to get them from is TBS, and they're overseas. But this is kind of the overseas live stream. So for those of you that are outside of the U.S., sounds like that motor is a good option. If I do another order from TBS, I'll try to remember to snag one of these motors to give it a spin with my fingers to confirm how notchy or not notchy it is. Just taking a quick look at it here. Looks like it has a 2mm motor shaft, which is a shame, but is kind of the standard. Just a little bit of a missed opportunity there. A 15mm wide motor can have a 3mm motor shaft down here below the bell. So yeah, this is just sort of a missed opportunity, but there's only like one motor that does in 15mm in the 15mm size that does have a 3mm motor shaft, and unfortunately it's a super coggy motor. It's the RCN Power 1506. So the fact that it's so coggy makes it pretty much worthless otherwise. So someday we will get a smooth running motor in this size with a 3mm motor shaft, and it'll be worth the wait, hopefully. Okay, where are we at here? Just super quick, Pablo, the one thing that gobbles up Propwash more than anything else is D-gain. So if those motors do in fact run really smooth and you're not absolutely at the limit of your tune yet, just try like adding 5 points of D-min and D-max. Keep an eye on the motor heat, make sure the motors don't get too hot. And that is the one thing that's going to handle Propwash better than anything else. If you add 5 points of D-gain and the motors still aren't getting hot, you can probably add another 5 points of D-gain. Basically, one of the easiest ways to tune rigs is that the P term is usually pretty much exactly where it needs to be on the stock tune. Sometimes you can maybe add 5 or 10 points of it, but usually the stock P gain values are totally fine. You get your iTerm relax set to a cutoff of 10. That handles most of the bounce back. If you still have bounce back, that's a P gain issue, so you need to add P gain on whatever axis is still getting bounce back. And then at that point, you just keep adding more and more D-gain until the motors start getting hot, or it starts to make funny noises when you're idling or in zero throttle while it's falling through the air. And yeah, just as you add more and more D-gain, it's going to eat Propwash better and better and better and better. But if you add too much D-gain, the motors will get too hot, and you're running the risk of hooking a motor or an ESC. So yeah, that's kind of like tuning 101 right there. PJ Denard says, hope you're doing good, man. What kind of rates do you fly? At what point do you think you are flipping too fast and losing resolution? For me, rates are all about the flight footage. When I come home and watch my flight footage, if the rotation looks too fast, then it is. And then so that's your end of stick travel rate, right? Super rate or max velocity if you're on actual rates, which you should be on. Actual rates are amazing. And then your center stick sensitivity, which in actual rates is just called center stick. For me, the way that I tune the center stick is that, again, when I'm watching the footage, if when I rotate one direction to the other, or on pitch or on yaw, when I cross over the center line and on the thumbstick, so you're at the center, you start to pull away from center, and one of the springs starts to go into tension. Well, when you go back towards center, that spring is going to unload. When you hit the center point, that spring is going to be fully unloaded, and you're going to start pushing into another spring on the other side to load that spring up. When I watch my flight footage back, if there's a noticeable jerk when I cross over the center point, that means my center stick sensitivity is too high. It's too sensitive, so I lower it down. At the moment, I have my center stick sensitivity as low as it'll go on the actual rates. And then the middle stick sensitivity, which is called expo, that's all about what kind of feels right. But again, it's also the flight footage. If you're watching your flight footage and if you're happy with the center stick sensitivity, if you're happy with the maximum velocity roll rate, but you're not happy with everything else, that's expo. You can move your expo up and down to control the sensitivity of the center of the stick travel. It doesn't control the dead center. It doesn't control the end point. It controls everything in between. It's a completely subjective thing. My rates don't do any of you guys any good because you're not me. That being said, I run my center stick sensitivity as low as it'll go on the actual rates in Betaflight, which is a value of 10. My maximum velocity is 700, and then my expo is 0.7. Most people can't fly those rates. Those are a very cinematic rate. I like my footage I want my footage to be for everybody, not just for FPV pilots. People that fly very high rotational rates and have very low expo, who have this kind of like stick bang style or like this skateboardy kind of style, their flight footage is for pilots, and that's it. Only pilots can watch that flight footage without getting a headache and without like kind of pulling away from the screen and being like, Jesus Christ, take it easy. Maybe I'm just getting old at the ripe old age of 41, but I can't watch that footage anymore either. I do the same thing as like non-FPV pilots, and I'm just like, this is too much. Like, there's just like, it's impressive, sure, don't get me wrong, like it's definitely impressive, And yeah, a lot of pilots are gonna enjoy watching that, but I don't know, maybe like us older folks, but certainly everybody else in the world other than FPV pilots, like they tend to not be able to watch that stuff, and they're just like, Jesus, like the thing they say is like, this makes me dizzy, or they'll say like, how do you not get dizzy? Totally personal preference though, you know, there's no right or wrong answer there. So yeah, there you go. Rates are a fiercely personal thing. In your first couple of years, you should really focus on rates rather than PID tuning. PID tuning means pretty much nothing. The stock Betaflight PID tune in 4.3 is damn near perfect on most rigs. And to spend lots of time obsessing over and changing your PIDs and thinking that the PIDs are going to make your flight footage look better is a complete waste of time. And to be really honest, the worse your PID tune is, the better you're going to get as a pilot. So if you want to get better as a pilot, just don't even think about PID tuning. Like, leave the stock PID tune. It's going to force you to be a better pilot, and it's also going to show you when you're putting the rig into situations where there's an aerodynamic situation that it don't like Propwash, right? Like when Propwash is your fault, 100%. You can fly the rig in a way that it doesn't Propwash. Takes a long time to learn that, but it's your fault, 100%. Every single time you get Propwash, that's on you. Like, if you put a whole bunch of effort and time into getting the PID tune really dialed in, the rig can make up for your mistake. But you're the one that put it into the dirty air. And there's only a couple of situations where like that's okay. Like racing, there's certain situations in racing where like you have to put it into dirty air. That's the right line to take to get through the next gate. And then there are like one or two camera moves in 5-inch freestyle / cinematic world that you have to put the rig into Propwash. One of those situations is a camera movement that I fucking love. And it's a big part of the reason why I don't fly KISS or Flight 1 and had such a terrible time with KISS and Flight 1, because they just don't, they don't have nearly as sophisticated of, they're just old school. They're just an old school PID controller from like 3 or 4 years ago, which 3 or 4 years ago was the best that we had, but nowadays Betaflight has just demolished them, as has EmuFlight. And you can do this one specific camera move without getting a huge hit of bounce back and or Propwash, which is basically like a look back move. It's you generate a ton of momentum, and then you coordinate both yaw and roll to flat spin the rig, and then so like you pick the way I use this movement, camera movement, is like I'll pick my subject. So like if I'm if I'm chasing a car or something, right? I'll pick my subject, I'll generate a ton of momentum to go past the subject, and then as I get to the subject, I'll rip the rig around, which gives you a really cool like little rotation of your subject dead center in your viewfinder. And then the added benefit is you can now fade away from the subject, and it has this really cool like zoom out sort of effect. But when you do that, you're putting yourself into dirty air, so it's a really, really, really challenging aerodynamic situation that you're putting the rig in, and you gotta have the best flight firmware to be able to properly handle that, which is Betaflight, and to some extent EmuFlight, because EmuFlight is a fork of Betaflight that has had a lot of really great work done to it. So yeah, there you go. Dan636 says, I feel the same way when people say 4S is dead. Yeah, it's true. It's true. 4S is arguably better for long-range rigs. And it's also easier on electrical components. Like, there are things about 4S that are absolutely better. Or how about this? On anything smaller than like a 600 gram 5-inch freestyle rig, or just leave out the word freestyle, 4S is actually like 5-inch 600 plus gram rigs is where 6S starts to make sense, because you have enough power and you have enough weight that and typically you have a powerful enough drivetrain where you can find some benefit from the lower amps that 6S will pull. Anything smaller than that, and there's no, like, that is the only benefit of 6S. Anything smaller than that, you don't get that benefit of 6S, and so it's just hype train. Like, all of these 6S micros, it's terrible. It's a terrible idea. You get zero benefit, and there's a lot of negatives. It's really hard on the electronics. The batteries are more expensive. The batteries actually, in a lot of cases, don't perform as good, because a smaller, like when you get below, like 450 mAh and below, that size pouch of lithium polymer doesn't perform as well as a 550 or a 650 or 850 or 900 or and up pouch of lithium polymer. So in a lot of cases, these 6S micros actually perform a lot worse because they're putting like 350 mAh 6S batteries on it, and they're like they're not good. Like a 4S 850 mAh battery will outperform that because the 850 mAh pouches just are better. There's a point of diminishing returns with, we see this is with tiny whoop batteries, right? Tiny whoop batteries are a fucking nightmare. And they're, it's because they're such a small mAh, 300 mAh, 250 mAh, right? Like, why would you do that if you didn't have to? So yeah, really good point, Dan. Espander says, what are you flying, 2207 or 2306? 2306. 2207s they make way too much power, and they overheat when you really hammer on them. And they're also too heavy. 2306s, in my opinion, are the best mix of weight, power, cooling, and durability because they're lighter. And that also helps the PID loop, and it helps a lot of things, actually. So yeah, 2306s, like, unless you're flying, like, so the argument for 2207s is if the spots that you normally fly are just gigantic, then a 2207 makes a lot of sense. But to be honest, I would still rather have a 2306 because a 2306 is going to be much more precise, and it's going to be lighter, and all of these other benefits. Yeah, 2207s they're great when you're just starting out, and when, like, the fun is just, like, hammering the throttle and just flinging yourself up into the clouds and then waiting 10 seconds to come down. Don't get me wrong, I find that to be just as fun as anybody. But that's like, how many times can you really do that before you're like, okay, I'm up really high waiting to come down again. Nothing to really do up here. Just kind of waiting. Not really impressing anybody because everybody does this all the time, right? A 2306 is going to give you better throttle resolution because there's less power on the throttle throw. They're going to be lighter, so the PID loop's going to work better. They're going to stay cooler, so you can hammer on the throttle more often. They're also going to be more, the fact that they cool themselves better, they're going to be much more consistent because you're not going to have a situation where you just hammered them and they're boiling hot, and now you ask for full throttle again and you don't get the amount of power that you expected because they're boiling hot, right? So yeah, 2306s, here's the other case where a 2207 makes a lot of sense, is if you've, for some reason, built a super fat rig. If you have a rig that's like 750, 800 grams for some reason, that's when a 2207 is going to make a lot of sense because you need that extra stator volume and that extra power to move such a fat-ass rig around. But really, in my opinion, there's no reason to build a rig that heavy. It just does everything worse. That's a very divisive topic, though. There are some pro pilots that swear to God that these super heavy rigs fly better. I don't buy it. And everybody that I have sent one of my lightweight rigs to, I mean, not even really lightweight, just correct weight rigs to, has been like, or let fly here in Atlanta, they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And most of those people, Joshua Bartle, then start by building much lighter weight rigs. And I love showing people the light because it's been a very gradual, steady fattening of America. I mean, of 5-inch freestyle rigs, where, you know, back in the days of Session 5s, 4 years ago, naturally, rigs were like 600 to 650 grams. And then the Session went away, and the everybody starts flying the GoPro Hero rigs, cameras, which are like 40-ish grams heavier. And then you got to put bigger motors on, and then most people think that they need a stronger frame because the arms start breaking, not realizing that the arms breaking is a good thing because it saves the more expensive pain in the ass to replace motors. So yeah, it's been like this steady fattening of 5-inch freestyle rigs, and yeah, I mean, it's human nature to like justify, like, oh no, this flies great. I've been refining this rig for the last 5 years. It has to be this heavy. Well, no, like that's not. I mean, to some extent it's true because it is a bitch to get Session 5s, but you can still absolutely get them, and they're still 1,000 times more durable than the Heroes. Like, you're still gonna pay. You're from a cost per flight standpoint, you're still gonna pay a lot less money buying Session 5s for $150+ on eBay than you are constantly destroying Heroes and paying $30 to $40 over and over and over and over again at Best Buy for the replacement plan, because a Session 5 is literally going to take like 20 times the abuse as a Hero 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. And you're going to have a rig that's lighter and flies better and is more durable, and there's just a million benefits. It's like a systemic thing. It's like a holistic kind of approach to building these 5-inch freestyle rigs. Some people don't think that the Session 5 footage is good enough quality. I think those people are smoking dope. It looks great. Like, have you guys ever watched one of my freestyle edits and been like, ugh, this looks disgusting. This Session 5 footage is just not good enough. Like, no. Like, freestyle flying is not about crystal clear visuals. It's about flying, thus it being called freestyle flying, right? It's not called cinematic flying, it's called freestyle flying. Cinematic is a whole different thing. Cinematic, sure, the Heroes are absolutely what you want, but that ain't freestyle flying, right? These are two separate things. That's just my opinion. Bob Noxious says, envy the birds, you can book time with CiottiFPV here on Fiverr. Thank you for dropping the link, my man. I missed Envy of the Birds comment. He says, what's the best day/time to book some one-on-one with you this week? I can't do that live on stream, Envy. I gotta check my calendar and whatnot, so just message me and we'll get it all worked out. Do me a favor, if you want the security of going through Fiverr, that's totally cool, I get it. I prefer to book these outside of Fiverr because Fiverr's Messenger sucks. But yeah, if you do it through Fiverr's going to protect you a little bit. But, you know, if I screw you over, just come to my live streams and call me an asshole in the chat. I won't block you because that wouldn't be cool. And I would deserve it. So... PJ Denard says, thanks for the info. I like actual rates as well. I was using high center stick sensitivity, but similar degrees per second. I'll keep adjusting and see. Thank you. You're certainly welcome, PJ. Yeah, the stick bang pilots and the skateboardy pilots, they use high center stick sensitivity to give them that like super jarring attack. And yeah, FPV pilots, some FPV pilots like the look of that. I'm not one of them, but that, you know, personal opinion, that's all. Tiago Ramos says, do you use the same rates on Velocidrone that you do on the real thing? I try to, Tiago, but last time I checked, Velocidrone did not have actual rates in it. It just had Betaflight rates. Luckily, I remember what my old Betaflight rates used to be, which are pretty close to the actual rate setup that I've got. So yeah, although I don't really use Velocidrone. The only time I'm in Velocidrone at this point is when I'm doing a one-on-one session with somebody to help, you know, as a flight instructor. And the only time I actually fly in Velocidrone is when I'm like, hey, if somebody's having trouble figuring out a stick movement or a trick or whatever, and I'll be like, hey, spectate me for a second. So I fly Velocidrone for like 3 minutes a month. Because, yeah, I'm only ever actually on the sticks when I'm just, like, showing somebody something real quick that they can't see it, so they can, you know, they can focus on just watching me do it and watching my stick overlay. So, yeah, I don't, I just don't fly in Velocidrone anymore. PJ says, I'll be trying actual defaults and adjusting from there. Thanks, as always. Certainly welcome. Wild FPV says 1408, he didn't tag me, but he says 1408 seems too big and tall, though. It is. In my and most opinion, 1408 is not a good motor size. The only type of a rig that 1408 makes any sense is a high-speed rig. If you're building a rig to just do, like, really quick, full throttle, as fast as possible blasts, a 1408 kind of maybe makes some sense, although, man, it is going to overheat like immediately, so you're really only going to get like a half second of full power from it. So I don't even know if 1408 makes sense in that situation. 1408 is not a good motor size. It just, I guess you could maybe make the argument that, like, for a super hardcore long-range rig, it might maybe make sense. But, man, that rig is going to fly so awful with that motor on it. But I know the hardcore long-range guys don't care. They don't care how awful the rig flies. All they care about is going as far as humanly possible. So, yeah, I guess maybe that would be the only situation that it would run right. But, it would still overheat. And when these motors overheat, the efficiency goes to hell. So I don't even know if it would work there. It's really a terrible motor size. It's just bad. It's just not the right ratio. It's way too tall, and it's nowhere near wide enough. I'm sure I'm pissing somebody off that has a rig that's on 1408s that's watching right now. I apologize. But get that rig off of those motors and you'll get a huge improvement in like everything. You know, try to not be brand loyal to 1408s. 1408s haven't, like, you know, they don't sponsor you. They don't deserve your brand loyalty in any way. If anybody out there has back-to-back 1408s versus, let's say, like a 1505 or like an 1804 X-Nova motor, and somehow you still think that the 1408 flies better, please tell me how. I've had a ton of experience with 1408s, and they've been awful across the board. 3 different manufacturers of them, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of batteries. I would love to know some specific thing that a 1408 does better than other motors, because I know that there are people that have rigs on 1408s, but every single time I've actually been able to talk to one of those people, the situation has basically been that it's their only rig, so they're just being brand loyal and just saying it flies great for me. That you can't use the word great there. You have no frame of reference, right? Like, all you can say is it flies. It flies for me, right? It doesn't fly great. If you only have 1 or 2 rigs, you have no idea what great is. You just know that it flies. And, like, sure, I could build a rig with a dildo on top and that would fly. Wouldn't fly great, but it would fly. That doesn't mean that we should all put dildos on our rigs, you know? No, don't. So yeah, that's unfortunately a lot of bind and flies come with 1408s, and that really fuels that misconception of those motors. Because yeah, people that and it's so obvious, right? Like, most people that buy bind and flies, it's their first rig or it's their second rig, or they don't have the time to hang out here and learn, you know, the real shit. But then on Facebook, right, everybody is an expert. So no matter what, when somebody starts talking about 1408s on Facebook, 18 people come in there and say, oh, I've got a rig on 1408s, it flies great. But like I said, when you message those people or when you call those people out and say like, well, how many other rigs do you have? Oh, none. Well, one. Well, what's the other rig that you have? Oh, well, it's 14 years old and it barely flies at all. Well, okay, sure. Then for you, it does fly great. But like, you know, this is a huge problem that we have in FPV. The info that you get on Facebook is more often than not bad info, and we've talked a lot about that. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I try to bring it up as often as I can because I know there's always new people popping in, and it's super important to realize that, because basing your buying decisions off of that bad info is a complete waste of money, and you're going to end up with rigs that fly like shit because the manufacturers are so slow to listen, and in some cases they just refuse to listen. Because, you know, they've got 10,000 1408s that they've had made, and they have to do something with them. So they have to continue making rigs with them. Flight performance be damned. So, there you go. There's a rant for you. Good old-fashioned CiottiFPV rant. 661 says, yes, Velocidrone has actual rates. Very, very, very cool. I love that. Last time I was in Velocidrone, I went in there, I was like, surely they have actual rates by now. Nope. So that's awesome. Love that. Dan636 says, how high is your center sensitivity? I'm sorry if you said it earlier, currently at 30, considering going to 40.7 on Expo. I run it all the way down, as low as it'll go, Dan, which is 10. But I have noticed that the difference between 10 and 20 is almost negligible. I do want to mess around with bumping it up a little bit. I've got a couple rigs where it's at 20 and I couldn't notice any difference. I've been meaning to bump it up to 30 or 40 and see if I can actually tell a difference, but I don't know. Nemesis says LMAO. I wonder what I was talking about at 411. Maybe it was the rant that I was talking about because that was only a couple messages ago. Legendary 3D Gamer says, please read my messages. Legendary Gamer, please tag me in your messages so that I can see, so that it'll come up in orange. So here's how it works here on my channel. And most live streams, to be honest. If you type someone's name into your chat comment, it will light up in orange for them, and that's how I know which comments to read. This channel and my live streams are not just Ciotti sits here and reads the chat for the entire time. So like today's live stream, for example, is called Sunday Q&A, so Q&A is definitely a part of it, but the chat comments that I read are the ones where people tag me. But this stream is also called AOS 3.5 Assembled and CiottiFPV Reacts. I like to plan some like activities for my live streams that we can do. So what I basically do is blast through the chat. This also allows you guys to talk to each other in the chat, right? Like there's no real reason for me to read every single chat comment because you guys might be having an internal conversation that it's just a waste of your time for me to sit there and read, right? So yeah, you got to tag me in order for me to read your comment. Or if you like this live stream, you want me to continue doing these, you can do a super chat, and that'll guarantee that I read it. Because sometimes I won't even read the ones where I'm tagged because we'll be busy doing our things that I've planned for the live stream. So yeah, tag me, ask me your question, and we'll talk about it. Go-Kart Mozart says, maybe just add some truck nuts. Tiago Ramos says, I think the motor manufacturers see the sales stale. They just throw a crazy motor size. It's going to be the next biggest thing. It certainly feels like it sometimes. It certainly feels like they're just like, hey, let's start up a new hype train. Nobody's seen a motor that looks this dumb yet. Let's put it on, and I bet you we can trick a whole bunch of goddamn people into buying them. I'm not gonna say that's actually what they do, but yeah, certainly feels like it, doesn't it? Dan636 says, I bought the 1408 3022 from Hyperlite for $10 on sale. Now you know I've got multiple rigs. Get about 4.5 minutes flight time, 4S850. It's locked and fast, and I love it. So there you go. They were cheap, so Dan bought them, and he doesn't hate them. Here's my question though, Dan. Are you willing to, or have you, or can you build a rig on like a Toka 1505 and head to head it? I have a feeling. Well, see, the 1505 is not really a fair fight though, because the volume. We would need to. So 1408 radius is 4. I'm sorry. Wait, no, yeah, radius is 4. Height is 14. So we're looking at 703. All right, so 703 is the volume there. So the fair fight would be, I feel like an 1804 would be a fair fight. So 9 radius. I'm sorry, not 9. Wait, yeah, 9 radius, 4 high. No, 1804 is a lot more stator volume. Let's try 1505. So 7.5 radius, 1505 tall. Oh wow, okay, wow. What? I'm doing this wrong, aren't I? Hold on. 1408. 14 is the width, so 708. There we go. Okay. 1231. So 1231 is the volume, is the stator volume, roughly, of a 1408. So then 1804. So 9 radius, 4 height. So there we go. So an X-Nova 1804 is actually significantly less stator volume. I can all but guarantee you, though, that it's going to fly a lot better, Dan. What would have the same stator volume? A 2004? Wow. A 1408 has the same stator volume as a 2004. Holy hell. Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot of stator volume for a 3-inch prop. Although that's what it always felt like. When I had 1408s, it always felt like it was way too much motor for 3-inch. I always felt like 4-inch would be a better option for it. And that's exactly what that's telling us there, too. Interesting. Yeah, wow. Espander says, what about durability between 2207 and 2306? 2207s are going to be slightly less durable because the stator is taller, and that's a longer lever in inverted crashes. 9 times out of 10, what fails on a motor is the motor shaft. So that's really what, in my opinion, we should focus on when we talk about durability with motors, right? If there's one thing that fails more than something else, much more than everything else, right? That's all that really matters. This whole like one-piece bell thing, like it's cool and all, but the bells don't typically ever get to the concrete. So having a one-piece bell is kind of worthless in most crashes. Every once in a while, you'll hit like a metal pole, and the pole will somehow connect with the bell. And in that case, yes, the one-piece bell design is going to be stronger for sure. But like I said, 9 times out of 10, that's not probably more than 9 times out of 10. That's not what happens. And so yeah, 2207, the 7 millimeters taller, is a longer lever. It's a longer motor shaft, and that's going to make it easier to kind of bend. In fairness, though, typically where the bending occurs is above the top bearing, and the distance above the top bearing is typically the same between a 2306 and a 2207. But yeah, still it's still a longer lever. It's going to put more stress on the arm, so it's going to break the arm more easily. And it's also heavier. The 2207s are a heavier motor, so you're going to hit with more energy. So yeah, 2207s are always going to be less durable than 2306. Will you be able to notice that in the real world? Maybe not, but same thing with latency, right? Like how many of you guys went out and spent a shitload of money on one of these new high performance 2.4 gigahertz links, and like all it really got you was like 2 or 3 milliseconds, which the human brain cannot determine. But the reason you did it is because cumulatively every reduction in latency does make some difference somewhere at some point. So same thing with the motors, right? If you can do a couple of little things to get a little bit of extra durability, a little bit extra, it is going to pile up and make a difference. In the motorsport world, the saying for this is grams make ounces. When you're building a race car, one of the best things that you can do for performance is lighten it up. And it becomes demoralizing because because the manufacturers do the same thing. When Mazda builds a car, it knows that the lighter that car is, the better the gas mileage is going to be. So it does a lot of things to lighten up the car through the entire engineering process. So once we get a hold of them, there's a couple of things that we can do to lighten them up, but pretty quickly you run out of stuff, and then you start doing things that are like, you remove something that's like 50 grams, and you're like, well, fuck, 50 grams doesn't make a difference. Yeah, but then you remove something else that's 40 grams, and then you move something else that's 60 grams, and so this saying, grams make ounces, starts to pop up, right? You remove grams, and eventually you'll get to an ounce, and then you keep removing grams, and then you get to 2 ounces, and then you make enough ounces, and now you get to pounds. Now you've lightened it up by a couple of pounds, and so yeah, it's kind of the same approach. Dan636 says, I know it's a bad motor and all, but for $10 a motor, I let it burn. Yeah, it seemed like you bought them because they were cheap, and I don't blame you. When motors, when you start flying hard and crashing hard, you start going through a lot of motors. So a cheap motor is really, really important. And, a motor being cheap can very quickly, but right, like when we buy shit, we have a little priority list in our heads, and that priority list kind of shifts around, and the price of the motor is always somewhere on that list. Well, if the motor becomes cheap enough, that's going to go higher and higher and higher on the priority list, and eventually, if the motor's cheap enough, that's going to be on the top of the priority list. And it's like, performance be damned, this motor is really cheap, and that's going to let me fly a bunch more and crash really hard. And that's going to make you a better pilot, having more fun, flying more often, blah, 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 blah. Dan636 says, don't worry, your rant didn't offend me. Good, thank you. Nemesis FPV says, dildos on quads may be good for soft mounting things. Oh, boy. Bob Noxious says, have some TPU nuts printed to hold your antenna. We talking about, like, truck nuts? What we're talking about here. Dan636 says, yeah, I can do that. I'll even throw the X-Novas back on there if you want. I would love to know, like, I've done all of this. Like, I've done all of this motor testing. I've back-to-backed a million different motors. I have a pretty solid, like, understanding of this. But I'm one person, and I'm well, back then for sure, I was a pretty hardcore, like, into freestyle specifically, and that's not everybody. So I love when other people do similar testing to what I've done, so that I can get a kind of like a fresh set of eyes on it, right? So I would love that, man. I know it's a lot of work and kind of a pain in the ass, so if you don't do it, I totally get it. But Legendary, I'm going to time you out because I'm sick of you talking about food in the chat, and you're not listening to me saying that you need to tag me. So you're going to get timed out for 300 seconds. You can then come back and just, this is an FPV channel. It's not a food channel. Cool? So we're just going to put you in timeout just for a minute. It's all good. You can come back. You're welcome to. But you're not going to come back and talk about food. All right? It's always great when mommy and daddy fight at the table in front of you, isn't it? Dan636 says, I want to disclose, though, I haven't flown the 1408s in the dead of summer yet, so the real heat test has yet to happen. Gotcha. Yeah, the dead of summer is the equalizer a lot of times with motors, especially with tunes, too. Things can change a little bit because it's kind of, it's pretty shocking how much of a difference there is. I wouldn't guess that it would be that it would make such a difference, but I don't know. It's wild. In the wintertime, like, you can just have the shittiest tunes and the wackiest setups and the motors will not get hot. It's wild. Bob Knox just says, Super Deluxe hooked it up for tipping. CiottiFPV last week got 4 battery straps, shitload of stickers, coaster, flight crew chain. That's awesome. Love it. Yeah, Super Deluxe is just an awesome human being. We're lucky to have him in FPV. Dan636 says, hit legendary camera with the old Dan636. Now it's become a verb. Now to ban people is to Dan636 them. Pablo says, on my other drone, a Cinolog 25, I've got the throttle scaled to 60% and don't need more. Would move from 4,500 kV to 3,700 kV, give me longer flight times. Ever so slightly, yes, Pablo, but I can almost guarantee you it's not worth the effort, time, and money spent to do that. The only significant difference that we see in when you motor limit a higher kV motor down is at full throttle. A Cinolog 25 probably spends 0.3 of a second at full throttle per battery. So yeah, when you see Chris Rosser in one of his motor testing videos tested this, and I was super disappointed that he didn't call this out. And he showed with his test that yes, at full throttle there is an efficiency decrease with a higher kV motor by throttle scaling it down. But like, and that's true. It's 100% true, and I love that he showed that. We've known this for a while though. Like that info has been out for a long time. I was really disappointed that he didn't just really quickly follow that up with, hey guys, keep in mind, when you fly your quad, you don't fly it at full throttle, right? You blip full throttle for a quarter of a second or maybe a half a second if you really want to get up into the clouds. And that's it. And then 20 or 30 seconds go by, and then maybe you go full throttle again for another quarter of a second. So cumulatively, over the course of an entire battery, it doesn't actually make a difference. I had two of my freestyle rigs, 2 of my basher rigs that got flown for thousands of batteries for over a year. One of them was on 2,400 kV motors, scaled down to 65%. The other one was on 1,600 kV motors at 100%. And I even had a third rig that was on 1,950 kV motors, scaled down to 85%. And there was no actual difference in flight feel or runtime on any of those rigs. And I blind tested them, I ABC tested them, I ABA tested them. There's just not an actual difference because we don't fly around at full throttle. We fly around at like 20% throttle and 25% throttle and 30% throttle. And then we spend a tiny little amount of time at full throttle per each battery. So that's the full, that's an example of, like, don't get me wrong, I love bench testing. I love scientific, actual data. But it's really important to not just get totally tied up in that scientific data and not look at the full picture. I'm not saying at all that the scientific testing is no good. I'm so fucking tired of people shitting on Chris Rosser for only doing scientific testing. Those people are just being insane, and it's just such a stupid thing to say that science doesn't have, and we all know these people that say that science doesn't mean anything. That's insane. That's the dumbest thing ever. Science is so important, but it's not 100%. It's like 95% or 90%. Like, science is super important, and we need that controlled testing. And it's the reason that, we don't get the plague and die anymore, right? Like, it's science, like, everything in your life is based in science. You have you have a resource with every bit of knowledge that humankind has been able to create in your pocket because of science. So if you're gonna shit on science, then you're not allowed to have a cell phone. You're not allowed to have anything if you're gonna shit on science, right? Flat earthers, yeah, exactly, Bitterroot. Like, unless you're a huge hypocrite, if you're gonna shit on science, guess what? You need to become Mormon. You need to live in a Mormon world, right? Ooh, Best Cam's fun adult dating site. Now we're talking about science. Yeah. Hide user on this channel. So yeah. Expander with a £5 super chat. Thank you, brother. It says, thank you. 10-minute answer to a simple question was one of the reasons I like to be here. What's about pineapple on pizza? Keep up the madness. Thanks, dude. Kmart FPV with a $4.99 super chat. He says, have a beer on me. No questions, just a fan. Thank you so much, Kmart. Very, very cool of you. You know, amazing people like you and everybody hanging out that I can continue to do these live streams all day, every day, 24/7. No, never. I've tried the 24-hour stream thing. It's not a good idea. Michael Blade says, what's up? Riot9 says, found a secret stash of T-Motor F40 Pro 2s in 1600 kV, 2400 and 2600. $20 Australian, 14.14 USD. If you're interested, I can link you to the Australian site, secrets. I have finally, that's awesome, Riot9. That's a great price. I'm finally done with the F40 Pro 2 things. They're just too hard to find, and like I've got the Pro 4s on more. I've only got one rig left on the Pro 2s, and like I hate to admit this, but like they with some of these new, so the new stick bang. I refuse to say spang for the record. The new stick bang gem fan props, 4.9 inch 43 pitch. I love them, but the F40 Pro 2s in 1600 kV are just not quite enough for them. The Pro 4s are a little bit better. So I'm gonna let the Pro 2 thing go, which is sad. But yeah, it's just too hard. That's what she said. Good find though, Riot9. Man, 14. I might change my mind. $14 a motor is just outrageous. Tiago Roma says 24-hour stream with the Green Man suit is the best. It's the best for you guys. It's the worst for me. All right, we're getting late. I gotta get out of here right at 5 o'clock because I'm headed right back to Maggie's. So let's talk about the AOS 3.5 or 35 or whatever the hell it's called. So this is Chris Rosser's first attempt at a micro 3-inch, 3.5-inch frame, and one hell of a first attempt. All right, this is a great frame. This is also a first frame attempt. JVFPV with a $5 super chat. He says, hey, Ciotti, haven't caught a stream in a while. Just wanted to say what's up. Thank you very much, JV. Very cool of you. Good to have you back. Stay a while and listen. Who knows what game that's from? Yeah, with first attempts at micro frames, nobody ever gets it absolutely dialed in. I would never expect that. Some of the things that I like about it, good deck height. Like it's not like a crazy 15 millimeter. There we go. Nice, Frank. It's not like a crazy 15 millimeter build height that's like damn near impossible. I want to say that these are 20s, right? Don't quote me. They might be a little bit bigger than 20, but these are at least 20 millimeter standoffs, which is a totally realistic amount of build height. So I love that. Personally, for why I'm building this, to carry a DJI camera without props in view for these live stream bicycle races that I got hired to do, I love that the front motors are behind the front canopy area. For anything other than this gig, I really don't like that, because when you do this, if you put this face first into something, the camera cage hits first and the camera hits first. And I don't like that at all. I really prefer the arm ends to be in front. Jesus, bestcams.fun is back. All right, gone again. Yeah, I really prefer the ends of the arms to be farther forward than the front of the camera cage, because the ends of the arms are a lot stronger, right? They're the big thick carbon. They're 3mm or 4mm carbon. So yeah, from everything other than this one specific gig that I'm building this thing for, I actually really don't like that these front motor mounts are too far down. My least favorite thing, to be honest, is that for some strange reason, Chris decided to use M1.3 screws up here on the top plate. Luckily, he used M1.5 screws on the bottom. When somebody told me about this M1.3 situation, I thought it was the whole rig, and I was really sad about that. When I got it and I realized that there are M1.5 conicals down here, I was like, oh, cool. And then I got to put the top plate on. I was like, oh, come on. What annoys me is that the fact that M1.5 conicals were used on the bottom means that M1.5 conicals exist and could have been used on the top. So I really don't understand the decision to use M1.3 conicals on top. They're not any lighter. In fact, they're heavier by a fraction, right? Because the hole's smaller. That's really bad. Could you just go on Amazon and get a bunch of M1.5, M2, I don't know what you would call it. I think you would call them M2 by, I think what you would want to get is M2 by 5 conical screws on Amazon. I have not looked yet. I don't know if they actually sell them. I assume that they do. And then you would want to look at what the hole diameter is and make sure that there are M1.5 holes on top. So that's potentially an easy fix, unless that doesn't exist, but I doubt that it doesn't exist because they're right here. There's a whole bunch of them that are included in the kit, right? So that's a super pain in the ass. The top plate, it's going to come off. And to use M1.3 means that none of your multi-tools are going to work, and you're going to have like a specific driver in your bag. You might even have to buy the damn thing. And then you got to buy 2 of them because you got to have one for at home and one for your bag, and then you're going to lose them, and it's just silly, right? It's just I don't get it. I really don't get it. Truth be told, I actually really don't like that the hardware on the bottom is M1.5, is M2. I would really rather this all be M3. It would be heavier, and the frame is already kind of heavy. That's another problem that I have with this frame, is that I don't understand how it's so heavy. The specs say it's a 50-gram frame, which is really, it's a bit much. Sure enough, 50.6 grams, and I don't even have all the hardware in it. So after all the hardware is in it, it'll be like 52 grams would be my guess. That's pretty heavy for a 3-inch frame. I'm assuming it's that heavy because the thickest carbon, which is always the arm carbon, has a big long run, a couple of big long runs here. Chris did this so that the torsional stability of the arms was really high, so that the arms would fight vibrations. On micros, though, that is typically not much of a problem. So it's, to some extent, fixing a problem that doesn't really exist. With micros, at your cruising RPM, the vibrations that are produced by the motors are considerably higher than the 100 to 120 hertz range that we're really worried about vibrations being below. So like, yes, this frame will absolutely handle vibrations better than probably every other micro frame available, but in the grand scheme of things, that's not going to really make much of a difference, if any. So that's, you know, Chris spends a lot of time in black box software and looking at black box logs, and in his super fancy vibration analysis software. And it shows. It absolutely shows. And so if that's you, if you get your kicks from, you know, really clean black box logs, this is definitely the frame for you. That ain't me. I spend no time doing that. So yeah, but you know, there's this, the camera being far forward is awesome. It's got double 20 by 20 stacks, which is great. There's a little bit of wasted space in the middle here, but that gives you a spot for like a big ass capacitor, which is kind of nice. It looks like it's, so it looks like you can put an AIO in the front, but don't do that. AIOs are the worst. Spot for a Vista in the back, that's great. I need to keep in mind that this is probably one of, so for me, 3-inch frames are single 20 by 20 stack. And when you do that, you can pretty easily make the frame 30 grams or so. I need to remember that this is not that. This is a double 20 by 20 stack frame. So 50 grams is actually on the lighter side when you start looking at frames that have double 20 by 20 stacks. So that's actually my mistake. This is me reminding myself right now. When I said this frame was a little heavy earlier, I wasn't thinking about that. I love that it's got the devil horns. I fucking love that. Micromotors are very, very fragile. So this is a really big deal. This is a really, really, really big deal. And this is one of the first times that anybody has ever done this. And I think that Chris did this because of the conversation that him and I had like 6 months ago when he was getting started. Because he reached out to me for thoughts and ideas on frame design, and I spent a whole bunch of time just info dumping on him. One of the other things that I really don't like, that is a very common thing for first frame kind of things, is that the arms do not lock up. And this could potentially be a really big problem. You should not be able to see a gap in here. You really, really, really want to make your arms connect with each other. The way that this frame is designed, the only strength that the arms get is from these screw holes. And what's going to happen after you crash this frame a bunch, especially because it's on the little M2 screws, this is why I would really love for this frame to be M3 rather than M2, is that these holes are going to wallow out, and the arms are going to start moving around, and that's really bad. And now you've taken all of the benefits of this really strong arm structure and thrown them completely out the window, because the arm is going to be rattling on the screw mount. And so, and when I say this, people will, you know, the chat will light up with, oh, we'll just crank the arm screws down. Yeah, good luck with an M1.5 screw. You're going to strip this shit out immediately. This is actually, I think, like the second biggest problem with this frame, is that the arms do not lock up with each other, and the arms are going to rely only on this screw and this screw to stay attached. Truth be told, I'm a little scared about that with this frame, because these holes are actually going to open up even without crashing. They're going to just open up with just the vibrations from the motors constantly. So if I decide to build this, that's something that I'm going to have to check all the time. And unfortunately, when you check it, especially when when you don't lock the arms up, when you design an arm like this, typically what happens is, because all the stress is going through those screws, the screws back out a lot more often. So a part of me checking this frame all the time is going to be cranking these screws down, and they're just going to strip. I really don't like these M2, M1.5 screws. It's just not good. 1.5 millimeter M2 is what I should be calling them. So that's, I don't know, maybe there's some unicorn pixie dust that it won't happen on this, but I've flown lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of frames. And every single time it's been a setup like this, that's been a real problem. So, yeah, I'm very scared about that. And it wouldn't have taken much. Like, the arms are close. You know, there's only like a 1/2 inch gap in between these arms. It would not have taken much to extend all these arms and have them connect. My guess is that Chris didn't do that to save weight, because the arms, like I said earlier, are the thickest carbon on the entire build. So if you can remove any carbon from the arms, you're going to save a lot of weight because it's big, thick. So I assume that he did that to save weight. But yeah, it's probably not going to crash well. It's probably not going to age well because of that setup. I hope I'm wrong, though. I would love to be wrong about that. I think that's about it. I did not have, here's a perfect example, at Maggie's house, I did not have a 1.3 millimeter driver to be able to put the rest of the screws in on the top plate. So the top plate is not screwed in all the way. He did include extra screws, which was great. So I used 2 of the extra bottom plate screws to just put the top plate on the front here. But I can't fairly do this test because the top plate is not screwed down all the way. So I can't actually tell how stiff it is motor to motor, but I'll bet you it's really stiff motor to motor. But again, that stiffness gets completely let down because these screw holes are going to just open up because these arms don't lock up. That's a real shame. But that is more than likely something that will get corrected on the V2 of this frame. And as you guys know, I really try hard to not jump on the V1 of anything. I really try hard to wait for V2. So if that gets fixed, that'll make a big improvement on this frame. It'll get heavier potentially, but who cares? There's a lot of things that I really love about this frame. If the top plate hardware got moved to 1.5 millimeter and the arms locked up, I would be all about this frame, I think. Got to put it up in the air. I got to put it up in the air. From a freestyle standpoint, I do not like this split arm design. When you fly freestyle, you have a tendency to hit stuff in here, and the split arm design gives you half as much meat when you put something here. So what that means is, this is the problem with the Acrobrat frame, is that it breaks all the time because this front piece just lets go because it's half as strong. A single arm is more than twice as strong because it's one big thick chunk of carbon here. So when you send something down like that, it doesn't break the arm. It's a removable arm, so who cares to some extent? Break it, replace it, whatever. I get lazy after a while. The big problem with the Acrobrat frame is it had the A-arm design, but it was a solid base plate. So every time you would break this, you'd have to pull the entire rig apart. With it being a removable arm, that's a really big deal. But it's still a pain in the ass. I would rather have, again, the A-arm design, in my opinion and experience, kind of fixes a problem that doesn't exist. These micro frames just don't really have much of a problem with that. So I'll take a single thick arm that'll crash better and have me not having to remove arms and replace them as often any day of the week. So Tiago Roma says, I have a 3-inch that uses M1.5. I had to buy high quality stainless steel screws, or else each crash the head of the screw would just pop off. All right, think about that. That's super annoying. Hopefully this hardware that he sends with it is like 12.9 or 10.9. It's not stamped with it though. That's a little scary. Yeah, I don't think any of these quads, other than like maybe a tiny whoop, should have this 1.5 millimeter hardware. It's M3 for me. Mr. Huggy says, I couldn't get a 20x20 stack to fit in the AOS 3.5 frame in the front due to the camera holder. But if you did the back, you'd have to turn the stack around so it's backwards. Oh my God, you're right. Jesus, that eats up a lot of the build height. I think I'll still be okay because I build slammed stacks, but what Mr. Huggy is talking about is this right here. So this is a part of the camera cage, right? And it's where it locks into the top plate here. And so this is going to take up like 3 or 4 millimeters, it looks like, of your build height, right? This is where your 20x20 stack goes. Or you could technically put a Vista up here. I wonder if a Vista would clear up front, because that would be the easy button to kind of fix that. And I just happen to have a Vista here. So let's take a really quick look. The rear is set up for a 20x20 stack, so there's kind of no reason to not just throw your ESC flight controller in the rear. And actually, I betcha a Caddx Vista weighs... So realistically, these double 20x20 stack micro frames, the only reason to buy one of these is if you're going to run a Vista. There's just no reason otherwise. If you're on analog, it's just silly. You can get a much lighter frame with weight in better positions with a single 20x20 stack if you're running analog. But this could be kind of interesting. And yeah, the Vista being heavier, you'd want to put it in the middle, right? You want to put the... If you have the choice, the heavier stuff you want to put towards the center for better center of gravity. What the... Come on, man. Is it glued in here? Jesus Christ on a crutch. Alright, so let's see. Why is the camera attached? Don't attach the camera, you donkeys. Alright, let's see. Oh yeah, Vista totally fits in the front. So there you go. Put your Vista in the front. Oh wait, you know what? It's the front 20x20 and the rear 20x20 are equidistant in terms of the CG, so it actually won't make it fly any better having the Vista up front versus in the rear. But well, and actually you would want the Vista to be in the rear because the camera is up front. So the Vista being the heaviest part, you put that in the rear to fix the CG front to back. So technically speaking, putting the Vista in the front is going to make the CG more nose heavy. So if possible, put your Vista in the back. But then in the front, you've only got what looks like maybe 15 millimeters, maybe 16 of build height. So you're going to have to really slam your stack in the front. That's going to really limit what you put up there. So I think in the grand scheme of things, you're going to want to put the Vista in the front just from a building standpoint. Unless you can absolutely find an ESC and a flight controller that will work. I just did that Tooth Fairy 2 build, and that's only got a 15 millimeter build height, and we got it done. It was a tremendous pain in the ass, but we got it done. So it's totally doable. The thing is, it's going to prevent you from running like a more beefy, like really durable ESC. And although this is pretty tight, so you're probably not going to be able to run a beefy ESC regardless in this rig. But the argument would be that with a micro, you don't really need that. For me, I'm trying to be as safe as possible with these gigs. So for me, I kind of do want that. But we'll see. So there we go. We got 5 whole minutes for CiottiFPV Reacts, so we're not going to get through all of them. I'm going to end this right at 5:00. Here we go, chat. Pablo says, what motors are you putting on the AOS 3.5? I don't know yet. I haven't even thought about it. my guess would be Toka 1505s, but I got to really give it some thought. I want to keep it really lightweight. Athix built an Octo. Look at this ridiculous thing. I forget what camera he said he's going to run on it, but this is the FPV Cycle... I forget what it's called, but this is FPV Cycle's lifter frame. It's really cool. Big old dick nose on it. This is a super cool build. He's got the 25 millimeter motors all over the place. Very, very, very cool build. Super clean. Remy Tim asking, what is this? A center for ants? Fucking what a great. This is such a funny part of funny line from. God damn it! What's that movie called? Whatever. Doesn't matter. Paul McD FPV is building the glide. I think this is an iFlight flight controller. I think that's who uses these light blue grommets. And what else can I see here? Ooh, there's a glide hanging out here. Looks like there might be some hype train motors. Looks like 5143.3 GemFan props. Hard to see, but very cool. Are you doing an identical build? Are you doing two identical builds? Grizz FPV put up some pictures of his Ripsqueak. Look at that, Ripsqueak V2 with the RunCam hybrid. If you do this, the Ripsqueaks with the RunCam hybrids that I've built on the channel are the V1, and I made a recommendation, Zoolander, that's it, I think you're right. And I made the recommendation of 28 millimeter standoffs. If you do a V2 Ripsqueak, this top plate cutout is much smaller. You're gonna have to run a 30 millimeter standoff in order to clear the RunCam hybrid. Looks like Grizz is missing a couple nuts on the top of his stack. That's what she said. And maybe he's like fixing the rig or something like that. It's got a little bit of GemFan 3020 propeller action on here. I think you already know this, Grizz, but these GemFan 3020s are just a little bit too flat. They don't have quite enough pitch for a big old motor like this. This is a Toka 1505. You're going to get a lot better performance out of the DAL 3028s or the GemFan 3028s. Yeah, these props are just... This is a little bit of an under-propped setup here with these Toka 1505s and these GemFan 3020s. Think of these GemFan 3020s as a toothpick prop. That's more what they are. Other than that, really clean builds. Got some of the thin grip on top here. Good looking stuff from Grizz, as always. Great Southern FPV dropping an Instagram link. Let's see if it'll come up. Hey, look at that. I feel like I've seen this before. Chasing around some bicyclists. There's an M that keeps popping up for some reason. I don't know why. I can't really play the audio for copyright reasons, but flying motorcycles is super fun. Very cool little edit. Yeah, get linked up with some motorcycle folks and fly them. You'll have a good time, and those guys fall all the time anyway, so they won't care when you... Bob Noxious with some carnage. That's what we like to see. Hold on, what do you say? Oh man, that's a RunCam hybrid. That sucks. RunCam will not sell you just the replacement lenses. They will only sell you the entire camera because they come pre-focused, and it's a bitch to focus the HD lens. And that's 5 o'clock, my friends. We are going to wrap it up there. Next time we'll take... Oh, no, we're good. I hit the bottom of CiottiFPV Reacts. Bob Noxious with a big old rig. 2604 motors, quad blades, RunCam hybrid. What a cool setup there. Man, that must make a hell of a noise with those quad blades. All right, friends. Be good. Head on over to CiottiFPV.com to support the madness. I love your faces. I'll see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock Eastern. I'm going to sneeze. How about that for the end of a stream? Here comes some flying. Here comes the rest of the Charlotte edit. The beginning of the stream, and now this is an edit. I forget what it's called, but it's like Charlotte or some shit. I don't know. You'll see it. It's somewhere in the edits section of my channel. Be good. Love you guys. Bye. God damn it. Hold on. I gotta restart OBS. Be right back. Here's some flying. Love ya. Goodbye. Where's the button?
Oh, that was fun. That was a good one. And it's still recording. Thanks, GoPro.